Yo, it's Bollocks, and today we're back at Crab Mountain to bring you the only build that you'll ever need in this game, unless you want to beat Annihilation, because I tried to get the crabs working against him and he politely declined. But we did do a crab high jump test, and they can clear the distance to Venom, which I have to say, well, I was pretty relieved, because if the build can't deal with Annihilation and Venom, that's problematic. So the good news is that this build can deal with Venom. In fact, it does very well with him. And I'm really not sure what was going through Venom's mind during this fight. Check it out. From the gate, he didn't really know which way was north because he immediately just started floating in the opposite direction. Very unorthodox for Venom. I think the summons and all the crabs might have been confusing him a little bit because throughout the fight, he just kept on going off around the map, exploring places I've never seen him go before. And his little temper tantrum that he throws between phases was totally off. I think the game was trying to determine targets, and perhaps there were so many crabs around that it couldn't really decide what was best. In any case, they weren't really landing very close to me, so that's pretty nice. And then he up and ran off again, off to the other side of the arena. I'm not sure what that was all about. Maybe he dropped something important over there. Maybe he just saw a crab and chased after it, like a dog chases squirrels. Anyway, I couldn't make heads or tails of the whole fight. But the takeaway was that bringing summons in to fight Venom is an easy way to prove that he doesn't have the sense that God gave a clam. Another funny thing, I brought my crabs in to fight Cancer, and this happened. Not sure if this is just what happens when Cancer gets an STD, what with all the abnormal glitches and then turning invisible for some reason with crabs jumping off all over the place. Actually, I'm pretty sure this was a bug, but I'm just not sure if it was the programming or the crabs that did it. But it did make everything a little bit more interesting when he disappeared. Anyway, the main reason why we are back in the Crab Lab is because the synergy between Space Crabs and Detonation Trigger is now officially up and running once again. And with all the dot frenzy of the DLC and the new items, I thought it appropriate to come on home to the Crab Shack because the crabs never really go away once you've got them. If you know, you know. And I have to say, these crabs have aged like stinky cheese. If anything, they've only grown more complex and tasteful with the passage of time. And stronger too, much stronger. Yes, the last time we went to the top of Crab Mountain, the Archon damage buff wasn't even working with the crabs. Well, not anymore. We're getting a fat 50% added bonus with that archetype, and then with all the other tasty offerings like Honey Crystal and Singed Ring, we can get each crab up to well over 500 damage apiece. Factor in Band of the Fanatic, maybe Red Ring of Death, and you're slapping 2 burning ticks worth over 1,000 points of damage each. That's twice the amount of burning crabs that we had before. The doctor called, and the results are in. Burning crabs are a fatal progressive illness that can only get worse over time. More pain, more burning, and much more damage. So gas up the Crabmobile and come with me as we all don our crab hats and get crab happy once again, because this is the Crab Nebula Part 2. Okay, let's go! This is the version of the build that I like the best. It doesn't have much in the way of tankiness or versatility. In fact, you're almost guaranteed to switch it up while you're out there on APOC, but it crabs better than any other version of the build I've ever used. The new items from the DLC have very much made this into a dot build, and a lovely one at that. I feel like this build is just so fun, and there are so many different orientations that can work. Basically, it's a Space Crabs, Detonation Trigger, with Stone of Malevolence build. With those 3 pieces working in conjunction, you will be able to spam your crabs, which is why we're all here, of course, but that also gives you 3 ring slots that you can work with freely. And there are so many good options to throw into the mix. Let's just name a couple real quick. So we got the Red Ring of Death, Band of the Fanatic, Singed Ring, a Honey Crystal, Burden of the Skyalist, Timekeeper's Jewel, Shadow of Misery, Soul Guard, and Encrypted Ring, just to name a few that I tend to use regularly. Probably my favorite is a Honey Crystal alongside Krellax, paired with Tainted Blade, and Sparkfire with Twisting Wounds. That means you've got all your status effects covered, bringing your crab damage up to about 500 per. If you're lazy and you don't want to be constantly proccing status, then you could just replace a Honey Crystal with Burden of the Shyalist or Band of the Fanatic, because you'll be getting plenty of damage from your archetypes and plenty more from your jewels and plenty of burning damage to fuel the Stone of Malevolence. No matter how you run, it's a wonderful automatic build that really just delivers on mod power production and, well, crabs, of course. It's a crab wizard build. And the addition of the little summoner buddies is totally great. I'm happy to say that all the kids really are getting along good. Okay, just like before, weapons don't really matter, only the crabs really matter. I, of course, use Nebula on the offhand because it's a pun, and also for more elemental mod power. Where we used to be lacking in the way of mutators, there are now several that fit very nicely into this build. Unfortunately, Harmonizer is still bugged, so that's dead to us. However, the ones that I like best are Prophecy, Maelstrom, Spirit Healer, and of course Twisting Wounds, depending on the orientation you're running. Prophecy and Maelstrom, or even Feedback, are nice for mod power. Spirit Healer in a pinch if you need some more constant regen. Twisting Wounds if you need a source of bleed for the Ahani Crystal. So, if you're a total asshole, then you can run shards like mod damage, elemental damage, and mod cost on your relic. Honestly, those shards were almost sure to kill me on Apocalypse, so I personally was just running defense, like health, armor, DR. I just surrendered to the fact that this is a dot build, after all. You're not really going to impress anybody with how quickly you kill a boss with damage over time. The whole point is that it takes time, so yeah, I was just using my relic for defense. Traits are basic. As always, we got Fortify, Strong Back, Vigor, Bark Skin, Blood Bond, Bloodstream, and Siphoner, almost completely defensive on this build. The only utility traits we are running are Affliction and Spirit. Both of those are just for mod power generation. The loop is basically just optimize your crab shooting. I found the best way is to pop your little crab pods and then loose one round to make damn sure you're maxed out before popping the mods again. In this example, we're using Prophecy, which basically gives us a constant 30% mod gen bonus. Maelstrom would pretty much have the same effect here. Basically, you're spamming crabs, you know? This is the way to do it. Pretty cool, right? I thought I was hot shit before, like shooting a couple crabs around. This is like a lot of crabs. Okay, here's another favorite that I've been running around with. Just swap out Summoner for Ritualist, trade a few rings around, bring in a Ahani Crystal, and burden of the Skylist just to see how high we can get our crab damage up. Now, as you can see, these guys are jumping for like close to 600 damage each when we have the circumstances right. I know we all like some high damage crabs, so there you go. High damage crabs. And lastly, for those of you who want to tank it out a bit, this one is very handy in a pinch. Switch all of your relic shards for defense, trade ring slots for Soul Guard, Lithic Signet, and Encrypted Ring. Also, you can pop Spirit Healer on your Crab Cannon, which will net you 25% healing per crab shot, like the both of them together. Not a bad deal at all, especially when you're popping crabs like, you know, Taffy at the fair. See how often the healing procs, and I'm sure you can appreciate it. Look, I have to say, the only shame about these builds is that playing with crabs basically means that you're running away from everyone and just trying to fit all your actions in. Basically, it's a great way to learn to, you know, the dodge pattern for the boss. All I know is that it's fun as hell, though. Probably there are better options for mod choice, like better damage options, whatever. I said it in the first video and I'll say it again, this isn't a build to one-shot Apocalypse or tank through any hit in the game. This one is for the crabs. Alright, I think that about does it for me this time. I hope you all enjoyed my crabs as much as I do on a regular basis. Thanks so much to everybody watching. As usual, if this video is at all fun or helpful, drop a like and sub. If you have any thoughts, please leave a comment. I appreciate every single one of you. And that's enough out of me. Until next time, don't forget to keep on farming.